Namaste, Jai Bharat. Let's try to discuss the concept of unity of Bharat. It had always been amazing to people all over the world that how this nation had been together, is together, and shall continue to be together. When they look at Bharat, they see many languages, different ways of living, different food habits, and if you can look at this as many, in their perspective differences, in our perspective variations. There is a difference, of course. How this nation is together. Right now, the largest democracy of the world, which is Bharat, where the largest democratic process is going on as in today. Elections are being held all over the nation, and people do participate very, very enthusiastically. Yesterday, I saw our finance minister, Dr. Jaishankar, just making a statement. Somebody, it seems, I don't want to say who, says that why you conduct elections, it's very hot. Then his reply was, the number of voters turnout in your best climate is much less than the number of voters turnout in our worst climate. Anyway, that's not what I'm trying to say. So look at this nation. This nation, nobody understands how this nation is together. There is a reason which I am slowly coming into. Before that, let's see a few names. When the East India Company first came to trade in Bharat, and then subsequently brought their soldiers as security for their godowns, and slowly encroached into our nation and did rule for some time. During that time, in 1857, the people revolted against the alien rule, the British rule, which the historians at that time called as mutiny of the soldiers, Sepoy mutiny they called, and which was renamed by none other than Swatantra Veer Savarkar, who termed it as the first struggle for independence. So in 1858, John Bright, Mr. John Bright, he gave a speech in the House of Commons. The date I remember is 24th June 1858, where he was asking for dividing Bharat into many provinces. He could not understand why this nation is one and how this nation is one. So in 1857 struggle, after the 1857 struggle for the first attempt to obtain freedom from the colonial rulers, there was a discussion in British Parliament which was regarding transferring of the power from East India Company to the Crown. Till that time it was East India Company who were colonizing Bharat, and because of this 1857 first struggle for independence, they wanted a more systematic, probably wanted to transfer the power to the Crown. During that time, he made the statement that this nation is never one. It has to be divided into different independent countries. Subsequently, we have some other Europeans as well. Wilfred Scaven Blunt. He was very sure that Bharat can never be together. Bharat, that is India, can never be staying together. Of course, he was the principal of the Mohammedan Anglo Oriental College of Aligarh, which at the instance of Syed Ahmad Khan was turned into Aligarh Muslim University. So, Wilfred Scaven Blunt, then Theodore Beck, who was also principal of Mayo College, and Theodore Morrison, who was also principal of Mayo College, and there are many, many more Britishers who were really very, very convinced that this nation cannot be one, cannot be together. Now, but this nation is together, in spite of the so-called differences which they apparently perceive. Now, how this nation is together, continuing to be together without any difficulties and problems, and with much ease we are continuing to be together, with all kinds of differences as they see, but variations as I see. This answer is found right in the Rig Veda. Right in the Rig Veda. Rig Veda has got 10 chapters. The chapters are called as mandalas. So in the last sukta of the 10th mandala of Rig Veda, you find what unity is. The last 2-3 lines of the last sukta says that together you stand. Unity, you should be united and you stand together. Then you will go from strength to strength. You can look up the Rig Veda, get the sukta and understand for yourselves. Now, I am talking about the most ancient text written by any man in the history of mankind, Rig Veda. First written text, and the last chapter concludes with the notion of unity. Now, how is it possible for the Hindus to be together in spite of whatever? In spite of whatever differences people were trying to inject into my society, the society is still one and together and will continue to be together. How it continues to be together, let me think about it. Now, the ancient Bharatiya scholars, our scholars means the Rishikas, Rishis, Acharyas, etc. Remember, we always held women at high esteem. If you look at the families even today in this nation, the families of Bharat are not, in capital letters, are not woman-centered, but they are, in capital letters again, mother-centered. We hold mothers in great respect. So we have motherland, we have mother tongues. Many civilizations must be doing the same thing. So the Vedic suktas are experiences of Rishikas and Rishis. There are great women Rishikas, or female Rishi, and Rishis. The name always comes Rishikas first. So, in the Vedas, these Vedic Acharyas, these Rishikas and Rishis had long understood the nature of nature as multiple and plural. The nature of nature is multiplicity and plurality. We have understood it long before. Much before any man could wear clothes in the rest of the world. each blade of grass is unique. There cannot be a blade of grass identical to one of past, of present, and also of future. This had been realized, understood by our ancestors, the great scholars of Bharat. Now the question is, what may be the relationship between multiple and plural such specificities? There are specificities, multiple, plurality, multiplicity, each one is a specificity, and how one specific X is related to another specific Y, Z, and so on. Let's see how they are related to one another. Are they a relation of coexistence or contradiction is the question. The Vedopanishadic knowledge tradition speaks of a relation of coexistence of the multiple and the plural, not one that of contradiction. It is simple. It is simple. If your perspective is one that on the differences, then you will be drawn into concluding that there is a contradiction between specificity X and specificity Y ad infinitum. But if you look at the many specificities as a variation of some underlying principle, one ultimate reality or whatever, then the relationship between them shall be one that of coexistence instead of contradiction. The phenomenal world is same. The phenomenal world is same. It's how a Sanskriti, I've told you before also, Sanskriti is much different from culture. I will repeat here. Culture is refined human existence. Sanskriti is refined human existence built upon a knowledge tradition with an inbuilt longing towards the transcendental. I said transcendental, not God or sacred. The transcendental is much different from the concept of sacred. Let me not go deeper into it. So, this Sanskriti looks at phenomenal world, which is same to you, me, and everyone, as a variation. There are varieties. Now you look at a tree which has many leaves, and one leaf and another leaf, they are variation of the same principle, the tree. Similarly, trees are variation of one principle, trees. And if you look at the world as such, as variations, then the question of contradiction you cannot contemplate upon. So it's a perspective which talks about coexistence because they are variations, not different. Once they are different, then the relationship between two specificities shall be one that of difference, and the moment the relationship between two specificities becomes one that of difference, then the relationship between two specificities can be or shall be one that of contradiction, and contradiction leads to conflict and contradiction. Later, of course, you look at Marxism, much later, Marx comes out with a philosophy of dialectical materialism, whereas dialectics had been a method employed by Hegel. He implants the Feuerbachian materialism into the dialectics of Hegel to weave out a dialectical materialism where the entire theory is built upon contradiction and conflict. Contradiction and conflict. So much so, our contemporary communists are nitwits or foolish enough to search for contradiction and conflict into things of their interest to imaginarily maintain their theory of Marxian dialectics. Right. So the ancient Bharatiya scholars, they treated the entire cosmos as one that of coexistence. They coexist. And everything, whatever, is a variation. And of course, for easy comprehension and for easily for us speaking in a very what you call simpler language concept, they say it's all expressions of one ultimate reality. Therefore, they are variations of one ultimate reality given space-time context, whatever it is. And therefore, they have a relationship of coexistence. And this epistemology, you don't find anywhere else in the cosmos. I would say cosmos. You won't find anywhere else. So this is a very fundamental of Bharatiya knowledge tradition, which is the Veda Upanishadic knowledge tradition. Now, coming more to the more practical aspects, which is live today, which is living today, let's look at the Vedic Dharma, which is also called as a Hindu Dharma, which is also called as a Sanatana Dharma, which is also called as a Sanatana Dharma, and look at the number of deities in the Vedic Dharma. I don't think anyone knows how many deities are there. I don't think anybody has any list of the number of deities in the Vedic Sanatana Dharma. People normally say there are 33 crores of gods and goddesses, but I don't think there's any text which mentions all the name, and I don't think that number is very realistic. Anyway, which has a purpose of rhetoric. And these deities are ultimately one. Ultimately one. They are not the end concept. Now, nothing in the Hindu Dharma, at no point you find something as ending. It's always open-ended. You can proceed always forward. It's always open-ended. And in the same house, if you see, suppose there are 5 members in a house. Maybe the father worships Shiva, mother worships Sri Krishna, one son worships Devi, another son goes and worships Hanumanji, another son goes and worships maybe Kartikeya. The pattern of worshipping is different. If you go into rituals also are different, but they are not different. Is there any objection by any member of the family for one member of family going into a particular specific place? No. Look at the fantastic arrangement of coexistence of the deities within the Hindu Dharma. See, you ask a common Hindu who happens to go to a temple, which he sees for the first time in his life. So you are traveling somewhere and you just happen to see a temple and it feels like going into the temple. He doesn't inquire which deity is in the temple. He even doesn't really bother which deity is in the temple. He goes into the temple, he looks at the deity, maybe even he has to try to figure out which deity it is, and then follows something, and then he comes back satisfied. So there are a number of deities. They coexist because we know they are variations of one ultimate principle. They are variations of one ultimate principle, which of course is represented, this of course I am getting into Upanishads, which of course is represented through the symbolic expression of Om. In other words, if the Upanishads normally mention that ultimate reality is Brahman, But that is not my discussion, my point today. I would like to talk about the uh, amazing coexistence of the multiple and plural, or multiplicity and plurality within Bharat. So, the Hindu Dharma is a living example of coexistence of the multiple and plural, coexistence of the Vedopanishadic epistemology of coexistence of the multiple and plural. The Hindu Dharma demonstrates it. It had been demonstrating this through ages, and it is still demonstrating it. This is very actively alive. There had been efforts from without, people from without, to destabilize and destroy the integrality or the unity of Bharat. Listen, again, I will just speak about it. The unity of Bharat is based on the Vedopanishadic epistemology of coexistence. Now, practically, you don't expect an average in India to understand the Vedopanishadic epistemology of coexistence. You don't expect an average Indian to be conscious about the intricacies within the Hindu Dharma of the multiple, plural gods, goddesses, all in small g, and the relationship between the ultimate reality and the small g. You don't expect. Let's see how it is practically done. Let's see how it had come down to a practical level. As I've told you, people are free to worship whichever deity of his or her choice. Now let's see what really is practically precipitating and perceivable is the Bharatiya Sanskriti. I've told you earlier, Sanskriti is a refined human existence based on a knowledge tradition. In this case, it is the Vedopanishadic knowledge tradition. Now, the Bharatiya Sanskriti is rooted on the Vedopanishadic knowledge tradition. Once the Sanskriti, it's much simple, and we are living Sanskara. We are living Sanskriti. It begins from the house to the marketplace, and of course to the school. If we talk about the four ideals of Francis Bacon has spoken about four ideals in a different context, but let's see. Ideals of the cave, ideals of the tribe, ideals of the marketplace, etc. And ideals of the theatre. So in all these aspects of civil society, this Sanskriti is life and precipitating in a much forceful manner. We have Sanskriti imbibed and imparted into us through an unknown strength of tradition. And this Sanskriti is based on the Vedopanishadic knowledge tradition. Don't confuse the Vedas and Upanishads between a religious text X and a knowledge text Y. It is knowledge text, not fundamentally religious text. See, the so-called Dharma, we don't have religion in Bharat, we call it as Dharma. The so-called Dharma is a further offshoot from the Sanskriti. See, it's fundamentally Vedopanishadic knowledge tradition, and on the basis of this knowledge tradition, a Sanskriti evolves, and the transcendental outward expression of the Sanskriti is multiple dharmas. The dharma, if you call it as Hindu Dharma, yes, it's dharma with many ingredients built into it. It's not easy to remain a Hindu. It's much difficult. You have to be consciously being righteous always. I don't think I can use the word righteousness towards dharma, but for want of another word. You have multiple dharmas to perform, and they are simple, easy. complicated, at the same time difficult, at the same time easy and difficult. You have as a son Putra Dharma, as a father Pitra Dharma, and throughout every step you have to perform Dharma. And it appears as tough for somebody who is outside the frame of Dharma, but it is easy and it is simple and is in capital letters spontaneous. The Sanskriti enables us to do that, maintain that. And it's only when the Sanskriti expresses itself in a transcendental level, we have this dharma, worshipping patterns and rituals and whatever. And the rituals are meant for some kind of people whose mental requirement is that they will need this for their comfort and happiness. Somebody who might not need rituals, they would directly understand things without rituals. And even the concept of liberation, moksha, one can choose the multiple paths towards moksha. If you look at normal religions, the only method to attain salvation, atonement, whatever, is through obedience to Lord, practicing Lord's norms, living up to what the God wants you to do. But in Bharatiya knowledge tradition, in the Sanatana Dharma, we don't have a concept of God to begin with. The ultimate reality has nothing to do with your attaining moksha. Moksha is something that you earn, and you earn in whichever manner you can. There are many ways. You can also invent your own way to attain moksha and establish it, which goes on. There's no close-endedness in this knowledge tradition. It's always open-ended. You can always investigate, invent into something new. The path of knowledge is given for attainment of liberation, moksha. The path of bhakti is given, and the path of karma is given, and yoga is given. There are many, many ways. And if you're capable, you can create your own method of attaining moksha. And liberation or moksha is to become one with the ultimate reality. There is no difference. So, it is this Bharatiya Sanskriti, which is based on the Veda-Upanishadic knowledge tradition, which has an outward expression of transcendentality as the Vedic Dharma, or the Sanatana Dharma, or the Hindu Dharma, or for that matter, any dharmas originated from this in Bharat. The Jain, the Bauddha, the Sikh, and also the Zoroastrianism, which had got integrated into it. It is this Sanskriti that unites Bharat as one. And this Sanskriti is not a common phenomenon. The Sanskriti is well rooted on a knowledge tradition, and it is well supported by the multiple dharmas we have, and it is well supported by our being conscious of the nature of nature as multiple and plural. We know that there is no difference, there are only variations. So a Bharatiya from Kashmir and a Bharatiya from Kanyakumari, you visit their houses, you find the same sanskara. Same sanskara, same pattern, everything. The language, one doesn't understand the other's language. The food, one might not enjoy the other person's food. You look at Kanyakumari, if you go to the extreme south, their food habits are different. Their food habits are different in the sense, if I am right, their food is more towards being sour and hot, that is using more chilies. And some other people will take simple food which has less spices. Someone will have more spices. And the variations of all people in Bharat use spices, but then their intensity is varying. Somewhere more, somewhere less, somewhere more hot, more sour, etc. So the difference is there. When you come to Gujarat, you find our people putting jaggery even in the pickle, and when people tease that you take sweets, even in you put jaggery even into dal, then I'll say people also are sweet. Not till their food, the people also are sweet. No, this is of course a matter of joke. So, what really keeps Bharat going is the Sanskriti of Bharat, which is one, not different. Now, let me go to how to understand Bharat as a nation and what a person as an Indian, a person as a Bharatiya, how one should look at the nation and our societies. Let me see, people should not give, no, that I will tell you. Let me borrow from Lev Strauss and his structuralism. And let us make a distinction between substructure and superstructure. If you accept Bharatiya Sanskriti as the substructure of existential or existing Bharatiya, that is Indian, and your faith system automatically becomes superstructure. Your language automatically becomes superstructure, and your food habits and your way of doing things all get into superstructure. But the substructure, which is unchanged, is Bharatiya Sanskriti. And the moment you speak of Bharatiya Sanskriti, it automatically is implying that it's based on the Veda-Upanishadic knowledge tradition. Now, which is important to you, the substructure or the superstructure? If a faith system is only in the superstructure, for a meaningfully existing Bharatiya or Indian, the substructure is our Sanskriti, which is same to all. It has nothing to do with any dharma, religion, whatever. Your faith system is only in the superstructure. That's how, if you look at Christianity and Islam, when they came to Bharat, they brought their faith system, but they have integrated the Sanskriti of Bharat, because it is not a foreigner who is becoming either a Christian or Muslim in Bharat. It is my brother who had been a Sanatani with the Sanskriti of Bharat, changing his faith system. Only your faith system is changing. Your Sanskriti is not changing. But when a section of Bharatiyas created a nation after the independence of Bharat, some people, which is today's Pakistan, they created a separate Islamic nation. They named it as Pakistan, which means pure place, with the postulate that being Islam is perfect. See, these people are unfortunate. They can neither be Muslims nor be Sanatanis today. I'm talking about today's generation. They can neither be perfect Muslims. They can never be Sanatanis because they have discarded it. And Sanskriti has to be living. And Sanskriti is imparted from generations to generations. And it is that Sanskriti that becomes their identity. And they have lost their Sanskriti. Not fully. They have not lost their Sanskriti fully in spite of all these years. Partially the Sanskriti is there within them, but the situation or the atmosphere in that nation has gone such that this Sanskriti remains suppressed, cannot come out. They remain suppressed within them. The individuals living there are unfortunate victims of a separation, of a partition. But this Sanskriti we hold, all people of Bharat they hold. That's why you find the best of people believing in either Islam or Christianity live in this nation, Bharat. Their faith system is different, but their Sanskriti is same. So they are one, irrespective of faith system. Their Sanskriti is one. Their faith system is different. And the faith system which has come from outside to this land, this nation, had adopted the Sanskriti because nobody from outside is coming here. It's our own people based on the same Sanskriti who are simply changing their faith system, their names. And this change and that can never destroy their Sanskriti in toto. Some people may not be very conscious about the Sanskriti because they are not been taught about the Sanskriti, because they may not be aware that they belong to the Veda-Upanishadic epistemology of coexistence of the multiple and plural. Nonetheless, they remain that. I would say, quote unquote, in capital letters, the inescapable Bharatiya Sanskriti is built in everyone who is living in this land, also everyone who lives, who had been some influence and living wherever they are. So the unity of Bharat is spontaneous, natural and beautiful. Nothing can destroy it. That's why I claimed right in the beginning, Bharat had been united in the past, is united today, and also will continue to be one in future, so long as this Bharatiya Sanskriti is there. And Bharatiya Sanskriti shall be there so long as it is based on the Veda-Upanishadic knowledge tradition. And it's not simple or easy for one to imagine a situation of cessation of Veda-Upanishadic knowledge tradition. They are dynamic and thriving because they are active, because they are always open-ended, because there is no full stop, because there is no conclusion. It remains active given different time, given different space and given different context. The flexibility and dynamism is built into this knowledge tradition. Depending on the situation, depending on the demand of the context, things will evolve. It's something like a question which was discussed in European philosophy once. I will just conclude with this. There was a discussion in meaning empiricism in European philosophy, which was talking about words and sentences. The question was, which is the minimum unit of meaning, words or sentences? A section of philosophers believed that words are the minimum unit of meaning. Another section said sentences are meaningful, not words. This had been going on in Europe. But then look at the Mimamsa philosophy of Bharat. Prabhakara Bhatta, Prabhakara Mimamsa, how easily he discussed it, how nicely he solved it. He says that words are the minimum unit of meaning, number one. But when words are used in sentence, it undergoes a change in their meaning depending upon the want of context. And after it has been used in sentence, and the word, once it is taken out of the sentence, it goes back to its minimum unit of meaning. Where is the complication? Where is the confusion? The European philosophers had been discussing. Fine. So, the later, after the independence of Bharat, many people have, especially the Jawaharlal followers, they were trying to speak about unity and diversity. There is no diversity. There is no differences. There is only variations of one principle, one ultimate reality, and the unity which is built in this variation is natural, spontaneous, and beautiful. So there is no diversity. There is only unity. There is only oneness, not unity. Even the word unity is inappropriate. There is only oneness. We have the concept of becoming one with the ultimate reality, which is moksha. So there is only oneness. The Sanskriti keeps us as one. So this phenomenon can't be understood by someone who doesn't belong to this knowledge tradition. So it's naturally how people like Blunt, Morrison, Beck, they will want Bharat to be divided into many parts, thinking that they will quarrel. Of course, our princely states had quarrels, they had battles. We had the great battle in Mahabharata, but our battles were always dharma yuddhas. We fought on principles. Our Chhatravirya is Chhatravirya, but upon principles. So the unity of Bharat shall continue to remain enigmatic to Abharatiyas, those who live outside Bharat, those who can't understand it. Like lot of confusions Europeans made naturally because they are not aware of the context and the deep lying knowledge tradition of Bharat. They make differences in religions in Bharat. There is no religion. There is a religious difference, all right, but we already have multiple faith system. I don't know which temple I go into. After going there, I will notice Hanumanji's temple or Bhagavan Shri Krishna's temple. It's same to me. So, if a Christian faith comes in or an Islamic faith comes, it makes no difference to us. But our Sanskriti had been one, is one, and shall continue to be one. And the moment this realization is imparted to the people more, especially the young minds in the universities and colleges, the coexistence becomes spontaneous, natural, and also automatically beautiful. I shall conclude here. Jai Bharat, Namaste, Jai Shri Ram.